I am so excited about this next dish. It is going to impress everybody. We are making a vegan pulled pork sandwich, but we're going to do it with mushrooms. So the mushroom we're using for this dish is an oyster mushroom, and this is what an oyster mushroom looks like. They're quite beautiful. And don't be intimidated by the price when you find them at the store, because this is only about a quarter of a pound worth, and I think this cost about $1.25. We're going to use about a half pound. You can always just get more of these and obviously make more. It's very simple. But when we shred them, and we're going to use a fork, I'll show you how to do that, they actually get this kind of like flaky texture, so it's kind of like mimics a pulled pork sandwich. So how we do this is, see, they come in these layers. So we're going to pull the little layers apart, and then using a fork, just kind of hold it at the base and then shred it just like that. And there's really no wrong way to do it, just get it into little pieces. This would actually be a great thing to do if you have little kids and you want to cook with them. This is something they can do because all it takes is a fork. Okay, so do that with the whole mushroom. Once you've done that with all of the mushrooms, just go ahead and set them aside. We're going to get started on a barbecue sauce right now, and then we're going to cook the mushrooms along with some onions separately to just get them browned a little bit. So right now, get a saucepan. And this has a lot of components, but most of them are things you may have in your pantry. So this really shouldn't cost you a lot of money. And it's really, really simple to make. We're throwing everything in a pot, and then we're going to cook it, and you have delicious barbecue sauce. All right, so to get started on our barbecue sauce, we need just a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of a pan. We're going to saute some garlic, and the secret ingredient to this sauce is candied ginger. So we're going to add 4 cloves of minced garlic. And then we're going to cut that candied ginger into small pieces. And that just gives it kind of like a little bit of a kick, but the candied part helps keep it really sweet. So this is a really good, like, sweet, smoky barbecue sauce. And you know what? If this is too much work, you can just get some at the store. All right. And so I'll show you candied ginger. I love this stuff, and if you have like a stomach ache, you can just eat this, and it kind of helps with nausea. So this is what candied ginger looks like. It's kind of coated in like a sugar, and we're just going to chop it up into these little tiny pieces and add that to the saucepan. We're going to get this on the stove for just a few minutes till the garlic starts to brown. It's going to do that pretty quickly, so give it about 3 or 4 minutes on the stove. All right, we've got that garlic and ginger all cooked down. So now we're going to add some ketchup. And if you don't want to use a ketchup that you just find at the store, you can make your own ketchup. It's quite simple. And this is 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. We're going to add 1/4 of a cup of maple syrup. And what's kind of nice about this recipe is that it doesn't use any molasses. You'll find that a lot of barbecue sauce recipes call for molasses. And so, I mean, maple syrup is still a sweetener, you know, but it's a little bit more of a whole food than a molasses, which is basically just like a corn syrup. So a 1/4 cup of that. And this is some apple cider vinegar, a 1/4 of a cup. A tablespoon of soy sauce and a tablespoon of agave nectar. So now we're going to add the dried spices, and we have a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a 1/2 of a teaspoon of mesquite flavoring. It's a mesquite seasoning that you can find in the dry spices aisle, and then a 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And mix everything up and get this on the stove and let it simmer, and then just put it really, really low, the lowest possible so nothing burns, and let it simmer for about 20 or 25 minutes, and that's going to get everything really thick. So we're going to put that on the stove and then cook our mushrooms. All right, guys, take a look at this. This is the oyster mushrooms after they've sauteed with some onions for about 10 minutes. And look at the texture, right? This looks pretty convincing, and it's gonna be so good all smothered in that barbecue sauce that we just made. So I'm gonna set that aside for right now, and we're going to make a really simple, fresh coleslaw. So I have about a cup of cut purple cabbage, some shredded green cabbage, and then some carrots. And I just put 2 carrots through the shred blade of my food processor, and that broke them down nice and easily. So put those in a big mixing bowl. And it already looks really pretty. And now we have a simple 4 ingredients to add to this, and we're gonna be all set. So 1/8 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. You can also use red wine vinegar if you'd like. Here, I'll show you over here. We'll mix everything in a little bowl. A tablespoon of sugar. Have about 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt. And just a few shakes of celery seeds for a little bit of extra flavor. Okay, whisk everything together. And you can taste it, and if it tastes like a little too vinegary or a little too salty, you could add more sugar. You know, just play around with it. And throw that on top of all the vegetables. And use the best tool we have to mix, our hands. Mix everything up. And you can make this ahead of time. I mean, as you can see, we just made it right now in about a minute, so it doesn't take very long, but you can let it sit in the fridge for a few hours and let those flavors really soak in. I'll transfer it back to this bowl. There you go. And that makes, I mean, that makes a lot. So you can also just have this as a side dish now, right? If you have some extra. So we're gonna get all of our components together and get ready to plate everything. All right, everybody, we are ready to assemble the sandwich, and everything smells so good. So here is our pulled pork. Well, it's vegan pulled pork, so it's oyster mushrooms, shredded oyster mushrooms. And here is that delicious barbecue sauce that we made. So I'm gonna put some of that right there in the pan, and we'll get it nice and saucy. The great thing about this is it's gonna have that awesome texture, but what you're really gonna taste more so than like mushrooms and onions is the barbecue sauce. Oh my gosh, it smells really good. All right, so we're gonna take some of that and we'll get our plate and just put a big pile on there. There's enough to go around. Okay. And this is going to be enough for about 4 sandwiches. And remember, the mushrooms we used for this, we probably only spent about $3, if that, to get the mushrooms for this sandwich. Okay. And top them with some of that coleslaw. This might be a little messy to try and eat. You might want to get out a fork and knife when you serve your guests. But this is going to be so great for any kind of summer gathering you have or a picnic. And those nice fresh bakery rolls. And there you have it. I cannot wait to dig into this. So this is a vegan pulled pork sandwich using shredded oyster mushrooms, homemade barbecue sauce, and a delicious fresh coleslaw.